Hello, YouTube. How is everyone doing? Professional here. So today I got a crazy current events video for you guys, and with this video today, this is talking about this policy that's with Sony and PlayStation and continuing the no disc drama that's going on right now. But basically, Sony has a policy that if you are not active on your PlayStation account for 36 months, which is about 3 years, and you don't reply to an email from them in 6 months after those 36 months come up, they will delete your account and they will also delete all the games that you own on that account. So you can own hundreds of digital games that you have paid for over the years, but because you haven't been on your PSN account for 3 years, that will basically all be gone. However, though, to be fair, there is a bit of misinformation in this story. Now, I'm not defending Sony over the whole no disc thing, or even this policy. Don't get me wrong, but the misinformation. This is I debunk a lot of this clickbait stuff. There is misinformation being spread around where there are YouTubers that are saying that Sony just recently actually put in this policy. This was not a recent policy. This was actually something that's been the policy since 2019. So this was the policy that was actually put in 2019. It was not put in recently. However, though, with no discs and Sony going all digital, people have been reading the terms and all the policies, and they have found this, and this has gone viral. But this is
Now, Pro is right. He's not defending Sony, but he is saying, in his own way, in a nice, polite way, that, you can't really, bring up the past if you know these million billion dollar companies be shady anyway, because, we need water to live. We need faucet water and bottled water. Faucet water, is unhealthy because it's literally purified, sewer water that comes from the toilet you flush. It's literally recycled non-salt water, right? But it's also healthy because it comes out of like non-rusted metal, which is better drinking out of than plastic, which is cancerous. Even if there's healthier bottled water that's like purified better inside the plastic. Now, yes, I know metal's cancerous, but mainly, rusted metal and burning metal is where like, if your lips is touching plastic, especially hot plastic, that's like worse, than like drinking out of, like a metal faucet. So, you know, people get faucet water and bottled water, and the plastics where bottled water is made from like outsourcing, usually, Chinese kids slash slaves in sweatshops. And that's an example. So, sometimes you need to support, a moral companies to live, but like with this whole Xbox and PlayStation and technology period with these tech billionaires and million billion dollar companies, they use outsourcing, and a lot of our parts for these consoles are made by, black African slaves in the Middle East and in Africa or whatever. And with that, it's not your fault, but this stuff ain't known to the public. But when companies openly be outsourcing, you can't sit and bring up stuff from the past like these niggas weren't shady just because they'll treat their workers slash slaves like dog shit. Don't think you're not gonna be treated like dog shit too. You gotta test with your pockets. So Pro is right. These ponies kind of brought this on themselves, and yes, Pro is, a PlayStation gamer. He only uses his Xbox for backwards compatibility. You can see that in the videos, like he literally makes, but he's not a pony, which is just a PlayStation dick rider, aka, pony, Sony, but ponies are for girls, gay dude, dick rider. Okay, that's pretty self explanatory, but he is right. You kind of can't complain. You got no disc too. And what's fucked up, I'm primarily an Xbox gamer. I was off PlayStation for 3 years. So that's literally like fucked up, if you're an Xbox gamer, and you only use your PlayStation like me. I just use the controller for aimbot and shooting games. Because the joysticks are better for shooting games. That's the only thing I use my PlayStation for is Apex Legends, and maybe some people who play Dragon Ball games on there.